All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're looking at a huge foreign policy story, but not just as a news headline. We're going to break it down like a political risk analyst would. So, what happens when a country's foreign policy gets tangled up with, say, private business deals? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. And at the core of all this is a really serious charge. The accusation is that a huge, long-term strategic partnership was basically thrown under the bus. And not for some grand strategic reason, but for, well, personal gain. Let's dig into that. Now, look who's saying this. This isn't just some random commentator, right? We're talking about Jake Sullivan, a guy who literally helped build the US-India relationship. So when he says something like this, it's a bombshell. He's basically accusing the administration of doing a complete 180 on its South Asia policy, ditching India for Pakistan. And you've got to understand, the stakes here are just massive. This isn't only about India. Think about it. If the US can just drop a major partner like that, what message does that send to everyone else? Allies like Germany or Japan or Canada. It makes them wonder if they can really count on America anymore. Okay, so to really get what's happening here, we need to look at who was actually running the show. Who were the key players in all these negotiations? And this slide, wow, it really lays out the core issue perfectly. It's like a split screen. On one side, you have Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, acting as official U.S. envoys for these super high-stakes peace talks. But then, on the other side, their own families are deep into a big money deal in the exact same part of the world. See the problem? So the company right in the middle of all this, it's called World Liberty Financial, or WLFI for short. Now, this isn't just any company. It's a crypto firm with really, really close family ties to the administration. And this connection is absolutely key because it's the bridge between a private business deal and a huge pivot in American foreign policy. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to use the failed peace talks in Islamabad as our main case study here. This is where everything, the diplomacy, the private business deals, all the regional politics, it all collides. So the situation at the time was incredibly tense. I mean, the whole world was holding its breath, watching these talks in Islamabad. Everyone was hoping they could stop a massive regional war from breaking out. The idea was for Pakistan to help turn a really fragile ceasefire into some kind of lasting peace. But it didn't work. After a marathon 21-hour session, the whole thing just fell apart. They were miles apart on the big issues. The US said no more uranium enrichment, period. Iran said no way, we need it for civilian power. Then you had the Strait of Hormuz, Israeli strikes in Lebanon. They were just completely deadlocked. No deal. Okay, so the talks crash and burn in spectacular fashion. It makes you wonder, right? What was really going on behind closed doors? Was this a real shot at peace that just failed, or was there another game being played entirely? And this timeline? Well, it's pretty revealing. Just look at the sequence of events. First, in April 2025, that family crypto deal gets signed in Pakistan. Then, just a few weeks after that, Pakistan's military ruler gets an invite to the White House. I mean, that's a huge diplomatic perk. The timing is just impossible to ignore. It really makes you question what the real priorities were. And people in the region were definitely noticing how weird this all was. You have a Gulf diplomat making this absolutely wild accusation that the American envoys were acting more like Israeli assets, trying to push the US into a fight. I mean, can you imagine? That shows you just how much distrust was brewing among America's own partners. And it wasn't just a regional thing. Even America's classic European allies were scratching their heads. One senior diplomat basically said, "We don't get it. We don't see a strategy here." So, to the outside world, this didn't look like some genius new diplomatic approach. It just looked chaotic. So, where does all of this leave us? What's the actual damage? What's the real-world fallout when foreign policy seems to be pulled in so many different directions at once? Well, while American diplomacy was looking pretty messy, some people were doing just fine. Take Steve Witkoff, the special envoy. Forbes reported his personal wealth jumped by 15% in just 1 year while he was in that government role. Make of that what you will. And here's the real strategic cost, the big picture damage. The US-India partnership seriously hurt. Allies like Germany and Japan, they start to hedge their bets, look for other friends. US promises start to look risky. And at the end of the day, that core foundation of trust that America's global leadership is built on, it just starts to crumble. And that's a bell you can't just unring. As expert Ed Price points out,
You can always hash out a new trade deal, but trust? Once that's gone, getting it back is a whole different ballgame. The feeling around the world becomes, well, we just can't predict what they'll do next. So it all comes down to this one really important question. We've seen the cost to the country's reputation and its alliances. It really makes you think, when private business and public duty get all mixed up like this, who is it that really comes out on top?